how did that thought process come behind building a luxury villa brand?
Traveling in groups, वो हम साथ साथ है. Feeling is always there. So how do you solve for this entire experience that needs to be delivered at these homes?
If you were to look at the Indian villa market today, like growing, how large is it? Maybe from a demand and supply side.
Yeah, so from a demand point of view, it's already a 3 billion plus market size.
Wow. And like, what are the economics of running a villa?
Point of view, an owner who has a home on average is spending about 80,000 to 1 lakh rupees per month to take care of their home. Now, if you deduct your expenses of 1 lakh and marketing costs, you'll generally be left with about 1 to 1.25 lakh.
Talk to us about some bad experiences that may have happened over this journey, scaling this to 1,000 villas.
I think for us, there have been at least 2 or 3 near-death experiences.
Today, I will be hosting Amit Damani, the founder of StayVista. StayVista is India's largest luxury villas brand. They manage over 1,000 villas in the country and do revenues of over 200 crores. They have over 600,000 followers on Instagram and have villas located in Mussoorie, Kasauli, Goa, Alibag, Coorg, Munnar and Alipi. They are profitable, have insane customer love and are extremely capital efficient. On this podcast today, we're going to talk to Amit about how he built such a love brand in India's travel and hospitality space and what are learnings and what are insights that young founders can take from his journey. Villas is still a niche concept and it's coming up, right?
Yeah.
Like I would talk to my parents and they would maybe prefer staying in a hotel versus an Airbnb or a luxury villa, right? So how did that thought process come behind building a luxury villa brand, from India back then?
Yeah, great question, and completely agree with you. At that point, people thought, इसमें क्या होगा? Like, how big can this get?
Yeah.
What we had an insight on was how do consumers think about travel in India, and that starts with personal experiences. For example, Ankita has been staying at villas for the last 25 years, even before Airbnb existed in India or globally. How would they book these villas was they would have some local travel agent they knew in Lonavala who would recommend certain villas to them. They would get some photos. तब WhatsApp भी नहीं था, so they would get some photos on email.
और ये non-branded होंगे, I'm guessing.
Completely. Just some
Family
homeowner
owns
decided
this,
कि I'll give my place out as well. So through this agent, they would book the place. But imagine to now prepare for a stay. Once they booked it, there's so many other steps involved. They would carry bed sheets themselves. They would carry towels. They would carry pillows. They would carry spices from their home. They would carry their staff along as well. Because everything has to be taken care of. The cleaning has to be done of these homes properly. You're not sure what kind of bed sheets you'll get. You're not sure what food you'll get. So we realized that people love spending time there and they kept staying at these places because as a family, if it's 8 to 15 people going together, it's way more conducive to spend time in a villa versus staying in a hotel because you have your own private living room, you have your garden, you have a pool. You just have a lot of time and space to spend time together versus in a hotel. A restaurant
in a villa,
shut
there'll
down.
be like more common areas.
Exactly. Versus in a restaurant or in a hotel, you're sharing it with everyone, right? So the restaurant will shut down at a certain time and you're sharing with so many people. It could be noisy. You're not really getting, you aren't even able to hear yourself and the others across the table a lot of times. Then, otherwise you have to go coop up in a small room and try to play cards over there together. So it's just not as conducive an experience when you think of group travel. So those were the insights we had. Like people really like spending time together.
And they love traveling in groups.
Correct. People love traveling in groups. वो हम साथ साथ है. Feeling is always there in Indian families or even group of friends. So how do you solve for this entire experience that needs to be delivered at these homes is what we saw an opportunity. And hence people were not using those homes because no one was really taking care of that.
Correct. And maybe like it wasn't really from a supply side. So maybe there was demand, but it was not unstructured demand. And that supply was also maybe unfragmented from that perspective. Like if somebody just is entrepreneurial, they kind of list that their property, but otherwise it's not in a structured way.
Correct.
So how has the market evolved since then, right? Like if you were to look at the Indian villa market today, like how fast is it growing? How large is it? Maybe from a demand and supply side.
Yeah, so from a demand point of view, it's already a 3 billion plus market size.
Okay.
In terms of supply, there are over 2 lakh homes that are hosting guests at their properties.
And these will be like luxury villas.
Yeah. So I mean, villas, most of these villas as it is, well built or well maintained because people buying homes these are second homes, right? So people have invested money in these homes. They're anything from a 10,000 rupees a night villa to a 1 lakh rupee a night villa that you could stay at. So there are enough homes out there. I think the question always was who can take care of these homes such that the guest experience is taken care of. I can speak from personal experience. I have a family home in Lonavala for the last 30 odd years. And that home initially was enjoyed by the family, but after the honeymoon phase, after the first 2 years, no one really ends up using that home.
Became a white elephant.
Exactly, it becomes a white elephant. You're just going there and you're just paying for bills rather than enjoying the home. So how do you solve for that? The only way to solve for it is if someone's using the home on a regular basis, if the taps are running, otherwise those taps will keep rusting. So that can only be solved if someone's going. You're not going to keep going. Everyone in their families have aspirations to see the world. They don't want to just keep going back to the same house. The only way is if you share it with others. And we had to, I had to open that thought out in my parents' mind, my grandmother's mind.
So is there a lot of education required as well, like from a homeowner perspective?
I think what happens is that in every family there is an influencer who drives that decision. Someone who's experienced this maybe in India or abroad realizes that this as an experience is great and I should also do this. So they have this not desire to make money, but this desire to be a host. So that is what drives people. So I think most of our homeowners have done it because they've experienced this and realized, oh, this is such a lovely way of staying. Why aren't we doing this with our home? No one is coming here. Let's open our homes up.
Interesting. So you're saying that there would be about 2 lakh homes from that perspective, and there would be it's almost like from a demand perspective, $3 billion dollars of demand today. So what would be, where would be StayVista at today in terms of like your traction, in terms of number of villas you have, in terms of number of customers you have, and how do you kind of see that going over the next few years?
Yeah, still very early days. We manage close to 1,000 homes across the country.
Okay.
We would be the largest luxury villa rental brand in India.
And you define that segment in a particular way, like at a particular price point?
Yeah. So for us, the price point on average is 15,000 per night.
Okay.
It goes all the way up to even 1.5 lakhs, but that's the segment.
Okay.
What that means is the way we look at it is what is the pricing of a 3, 4 and 5-star hotel. So our lowest average room price would be around 4,000 to 5,000 rupees a night, and it can go up all the way to 20,000 rupees a night.
Okay.
That's without meals.
Got it.
And that's what you'll generally see in your 3, 4, 5-star hotels as well.
And so the AOV, I'm guessing, let's say even if it's a 4,000-5,000 per room night, like essentially the AOV would be higher because it would be like a 3, 4, 5 BHK.
Exactly. So our average villa price today is around 25,000 rupees a night, and our average stay value, because people will stay for multiple nights, is around 60,000 a night.
Interesting.
Stay.
Okay. And this would be like 10 to 12 people who would be eventually...
That's right. About 9 to 10 people on average who stay together.
And like what are the economics of running a villa, right? Essentially like, I mean, you have 1,000 villas today, but if you were to just break down the economics from a one villa perspective, what would it be today?
Yeah, so let's first think of it from a cost point of view, and then I'll come to revenue. So from a cost point of view, an owner who has a home, on average is spending about 80,000 to 1 lakh rupees per month to take care of their home.
Okay.
So this is your salary for staff, your gardening, your pool maintenance, electricity bills, laundry bills, any repair maintenance work that comes up. All of that adds up to about 82,000.
So it's like a recurring cost which is always on.
Correct, which is always on, right? So on average, say it's 1 lakh rupees that they're burning or spending on this property month on month. Now, once you start renting out the home, what happens is you can make an average of around 2.5 lakhs per month.
Okay.
Right? So that's the revenue. Now, if you deduct your expenses of 1 lakh and marketing costs, you'll generally be left with about 1 to 1.25 lakhs.
Interesting. As an owner.
That's right. As an owner. So you've gone from a 1 lakh loss to a profit of about 1 to 1.5 lakhs.
Interesting.
Right? So that's a swing of about 2 to 2.5 lakhs that takes place from a negative to a positive. So I think what that does is it makes that homeowner feel free from this asset being a expense to now actually being an asset, which is appreciating in some way in capital value as well as income.
Interesting. And from a revenue perspective, so like from a cost perspective, you mentioned that there are 2.5 lakh rupees in terms of revenue that an owner can make. So like what is the occupancy there? Like how many nights?
Yeah, so on average, what you will see is that if you take 25,000 as an average price point, right, 25 to 30, you'll do about 9 to 10 nights in a month.
Okay.
9 to 10 nights means primarily people are coming on weekends for a holiday because they're working on weekdays, they have kids studying, etc. So it's your weekends when people come in and a few weekdays that people will come in as well. That will now vary based on locations. This is generally for locations where people, which are cities nearby your metropolitan cities. So wherever people can drive, they'll generally go there for getaways on weekends.
Got it.
But there are holiday destinations as well, like Goa, like Manali, like Kashmir, like Kochi.
We would be round the year.
It'll be round the year or there'll be seasonality. Manali, for example, is more seasonal. There'll be more people during summer. Goa is more throughout the year. So it'll just vary accordingly.
Got it. From a company level, how does it look for you? So essentially, let's say if an owner is making a 1 lakh loss on a property today, and then with StayVista they can start making 1.5 lakh profit, right? So how much do you take the property on? Is there a guarantee that you provide the owner? Like what is the kind of rental yield that you get, from that perspective?
Yeah, so we do a management contract with the homeowner. It's like how a hotel brand does with a hotel asset owner. So like a Marriott will tie up with a Marriott property owner and take a certain management fee from that property owner. For us, it's similar. It's not a lease. It's not a guarantee.
Okay.
It's actually a revenue share that takes place. Why? Because every homeowner wants flexibility to use their homes as well.
Got it.
So it's not a commercial asset. They, as I was telling you, they think of it as a way of their aspiration of hosting as well. And if it's taking care of their costs, that's great. So the purpose is that I should go to my home and I should enjoy that home rather than me coming there and having to take care of maintenance. So that is a big advantage as well that comes out of it. So they'll use the home say for 30 to 40 nights a year. The balance 330 odd nights is something they're happy to host guests over there.
Got it. And generally from GMV of let's say 2.5 lakh rupees a month, like how much would StayVista make per property on an average?
Yeah, so for us, it's a revenue share is generally 70-30.
Okay.
So 30% of that. So out of 2.5, about 75 or so is something that we'll take.
Got it.
And I think for us today, the run rate is roughly about over 200 CR of revenue
across the 1,000 villas.
That's right.
Yeah. And from a demand perspective, then how do you kind of generate that demand? What are the channels that work for you in terms of acquisition?
Yeah. For us, what we realized was that this business has very high repeat and referrals. So if you go on a holiday, you have a great experience. You're going to showcase it on Instagram.
I met so many founders who have said that I've stayed in a glass property in Rishikesh of StayVista. Like so many founders who just rave about the different experiences they've had on your properties.
Exactly. So I think they'll put it up on social media. Whenever you meet friends, you'll say, oh, where do you go for a holiday? How was it? Where do you stay? So it's just a part of a conversation that always takes place. Travel is always part of that. Conversations you have. So that organically has a lot of impact for us in our business. About 70% of our business happens directly. 30% happens
through your website.
Through our website or through our contact center.
Okay.
People might chat with us or call us as well. And then 30% happens through other channels such as Make My Trip, Booking.com. We also work closely with Marriott Homes and Villas. So multiple other platforms. Travel agents.
So you're listed as a brand there on these platforms.
That's right. And 70% happens directly. Out of that 70%, about 50% of our business today is either a repeat guest or someone a repeat guest has referred.
Yeah. Interesting. And, 70% direct with a 50% return rate, that's like insane, right? And if you look at like the holy trinity of building a successful consumer brand, you will look at a high average order value, and that you obviously have, because, building in the luxury space, you're looking at high organic demand and high repeat rates that also you have. So essentially I understand from an experience perspective it's amazing, but like do you do anything else as well in terms of generating that demand? Like you mentioned that's a very socially relevant category. You have like 600k followers on Instagram, right? So like does that also help in terms of acquisitions?
So as you spoke about Instagram, right? For us, we've spent nothing on Instagram.
Crazy.
It's been organically built over the last 7-8 years. And what works for us is content. We just need to show that aspirational way of living, spending time at our homes and showcasing what's unique about each of these places. And that just organically gets a lot of reach for us. So focus and spends has only been on creating more content, which helps people just learn more about us. And yeah, that's been the focus at a top of funnel level of just putting the content out. Other than that, we've been focusing a lot on certain communities as well. So we feel there are certain decision makers who make these group trips happen, right? Even
like
in your
you mentioned the
group,
influencers.
yeah, and even other than influencers, say in your group as well, there'll be some influencer who's making a holiday happen for your friends or your family, right? They'll be the ones who'll not only have a conversation ki like yaar we'll go to Goa, but actually make that trip happen. They'll put in the effort in fixing a date with everyone. They'll put in the effort to finalize a place. They'll put in effort to even say finalizing a menu or the transport, etc. So
those are the stars for StayVista.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. We call them chief happiness officers.
Wow.
Because they are the ones who are actually trying to bring a lot of happiness and joy in their group.
Yeah.
And it just goes without being appreciated.
Yeah.
So I think those guys are also very important to us, and we keep thinking, who could these people be?
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of bookers with us are mothers. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So these mothers are helping decide for their family or for their group of friends on where they'd like to go. So we always try to do a lot of things with the mom community across India.
Interesting.
The second community we've been focusing a lot on is the sports community. So especially now that we think of all the new sports that are getting popular, right? Whether it's
I think
paddle,
Lakshay Sen also stayed in the property recently, right?
Correct, he did, yeah. So or even new sports like paddle, pickle that are picking up, right?
So you can have villas with these sports amenities.
Correct. So we're trying to build these amenities out in these villas, or even these tournaments that take place, right? Like how can we be associated with them in some way that, because they are all concerned about being outdoors, right? That's what interests them. That's what we want to tap into their desire for, like you're playing sports, but you can also go to other places, play those sports, or just relax. So
yeah.
I think content and community, both pieces, is something we've been focusing on.
Interesting. I would love to also understand, from a company level profitability point of view as well. Like you're profitable, as a company, right? So I understand the economics of a villa, but if you were to then, multiply it with 1,000 villas, right? I'm sure like the challenges increase. I mean the costs increase. So just take us through like from a company level cost structure as well. Like what are your gross margins? What are your contribution margins? And essentially, how do you kind of achieve profitability?
Yeah, great question. So as I was sharing with you, our model is typically a management contract revenue sharing. So 30% is what comes to us. So that's our gross margin, if you look at it. Then to ensure every stay goes well, we have a sales team who is taking a reservation. There is an ops team which is on ground, which is ensuring every guest has a great experience. We have an account management team which takes care of owner relations. So all these teams combined would make about 50% of that 30% goes into that.
Got it.
So 15% is net what's left to us.
And you count revenue as this 30%, or you count this revenue as the eventual booking value?
So booking value is our overall revenue.
Okay.
This is our margin.
Okay.
30%, of which 15% is what's left with us at a central level to cover our costs. Today our EBITDA is around 3%. We see this growing to about 10% in the next couple of years.
And what are other big cost heads apart from this?
Primarily it's people, whether it's in these regions or whether it's central. Central people are primarily your HR, finance, marketing, tech teams costs, and in regions it's your operations and sales teams that come in over there. But being hospitality, people play a very critical role.
Got it. And how large is marketing spends as a percentage of your let's say net revenue?
So it's actually quite less.
We were talking about it and I was shocked for a 200 crore revenue company.
It's quite less. It's less than 3% of the revenue.
That's insane. Is it because like the repeats are higher, it's an experience-led category, and because you've essentially the properties are so unique that essentially like customer comes in with very high intent?
Yeah, no, exactly what you said. And I think we feel our marketing team is two. One is the team which is creating this content. So the photography team, they are the ones, and the video team, they are marketing budgets
Yeah.
going over there, plus our ground sales, not our sales team, sorry, our operations team, which is delivering that experience.
Yeah, interesting. No, I think I was telling that we would love to have a session by you guys at Instagram on how do you kind of scale your content, because it's so beautiful and like it's so interesting. But yeah, maybe I think we need to plan that.
No, we love that. I think there's lots more we need to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed, working on Instagram as a platform, and just the level of engagement that we get is just really fun to work with.
Interesting. I would love to also talk to you about the supply side of things. Right now, essentially, you have about 1,000 villas. Where are they located, right? Like, and maybe from a demand supply point of view, like if you can just tell us, like how do you kind of shortlist, villas?
Yeah, supply point of view, we categorize them in two different markets. And they're all linked to metro cities.
Okay.
So in North, we look at from Delhi NCR, which are the places people would want to travel to for getaways. So our getaway markets are Bhimtal, Mussoorie, Shimla, Kasauli, and then we look at which are the holiday markets people would want to travel to from all over India as well. So getaways then around Bombay, getaways around Bangalore.
Got it.
So from Bangalore, it's your Coorg, Chikmagalur, Mysore that people travel to. From Bombay, it's Lonavala, Alibag, Karjat, Mahabaleshwar, Nasik, and then all over India, Goa is the capital for holidays. Then Kerala is a place where people travel to, so Alleppey, Munnar for holidays. Kashmir is a place people travel to for holidays, so Gulmarg. Then in Pahalgam, Srinagar, we have properties as well. Similarly, Rajasthan is a place where people travel for holidays, whether they're Indian or even from abroad. So Jaipur, Udaipur are the markets that we work in.
And like, do you also look at it then based on these locations? You also look at it from a demand perspective. Like, is there demand throughout the year? Is it seasonal? Is there like a process you follow that we would first go after certain markets which have, let's say, high demand throughout the year, less supply? Like, is there like a thought process there?
Yeah, so what we look at is minimum 100 nights that we want to do in a property.
Okay.
So which...
In a year, 30%.
Correct, in a year. So we want to figure out which markets have that demand. So hence we primarily looked at where do people already travel to. We're not trying to discover a new market. The second also, what's important from an operations point of view is having density in a location.
What does that mean?
So what that means is we want at least 50 properties in one location that we can tie up with.
Okay.
To get 50 properties, even if we get a 20% market share, you need at least 500 odd properties. 350 odd properties. Right, for it to make sense. So
you're saying that you would want to have 20% market share in a particular location, and that's why have density of properties in a particular location.
Yes. So, I mean, if you work backwards from the number of properties you want, why we want 50 properties is that you want a sizable team on ground that can take care of things.
Okay.
We don't want a region where we just have one person and you're highly dependent on that one person. If that person is on leave, if that person is left the organization, what happens to the entire experience? That can only be solved if you have more people on ground, you have more properties on ground, and you can only think of having more properties if there's enough supply over there. So 250 odd properties have to be there in that location for us to then get that 50 properties that we want to.
And then across those 50 properties, you're looking at density of demand, so that there's at least 100 nights a year that you can kind of onboard.
Exactly.
And how do you see that scaling over the next few years? Like, you have about 1,000 villas today. Like, how does it make it very constrained from a supply point of view, or you feel there's like good runway for you to scale this?
Yeah, I think there's more than enough supply out there, right? Like, if I take just Goa for example, we might have about 75 odd properties today. That can easily scale to over 500 properties.
Wow.
So there's enough supply out there. I think for us, it's just we've been selective on the type of supply that we would want to onboard.
And what is the motivation for a like a property owner? Like, one obviously is now that like a property which was burning money can now actually you can make 1.5 lakh rupees a month there. It's well maintained. You can also choose to live in it. Is that the primary motivation? Like, or are now people also kind of getting into it from a business perspective as well?
It's evolved a lot. Initially, I think most people were giving it out because they weren't using the home and they wanted it to be taken care of. They had the aspiration of being a host. What we've seen post-COVID is that a lot of people have bought second homes. They thought about this being very important for their future plans. They might want to retire and live over there. and in between, before they start using it a lot, they want to start giving it out on rentals as well, so that the place is taken care of. It's not an expense to them. So people started buying homes from day one thinking that I will have my expenses taken care of. And then third, now that they're seeing so much more supply opening up, people have started thinking about purchasing homes purely from a commercial point of view as well. So this market is maturing. For example, we have a couple of owners who every year take a new property and hand it over now. So the first home was obviously a labor of love that they'd built for themselves. But the next few homes have just been understanding the unit economics of what works in this segment, purchasing such homes, turning them around to make them guest ready.
Wow. So if like there's somebody who's looking at doing this as like as a second property and as passive income, like what are some things that you should be considering when they start?
Again, the first thing is obviously, like in real estate, location is important. But what's interesting in this entire villa segment is location only matters at a city level, but not at a micro location point of view.
Okay.
So what that means is in Gurgaon, for example, you can get a villa in any part of Gurgaon, but I mean, hypothetically, I'm saying that if Gurgaon was a holiday destination, but in business cities, as you see, it's very important to be in certain parts of Gurgaon to get the highest pricing, because proximity is very important in business travel. But in leisure travel, people don't care about whether that property is close to the mall road in Manali or 5 kilometers away from that. They actually would prefer if it's further away. So your pricing actually goes down for land the further away it is from that key market area of that city. So I think location matters, but in that location, you can actually try to find the cheapest place where you can buy land. The second thing that's important is that the size of the land. We've seen a lot of homeowners for their aspirations bought acres of land and they built a 3-4 bedroom house on it, right? So the entire land might be expensive, but actually the property on which people are spending time is much smaller. So you actually don't need a very large piece of land on which you need to build something.
That's very contrarian, like, because like, generally you would think you would need a big land and then build a big property, but actually since you're building it in a smaller area, you actually might as well buy a smaller part of the land.
Exactly. And the third thing what we've seen is now coming to the interiors of the property, right? Most places people think about, like, and hotels also, they think about if the hotel room is bigger, then it's like more luxurious. But in villas, people don't care about the room size. They care about the living room size and and just like how big is the pool, say for example.
But the common areas where you would spend time with your friends.
So they'll care about, okay, how big is that play area, how big is the living room where we'll be sitting and you know chilling throughout the night. So those are the more critical things people think about.
Interesting. But do you see this like coming up in the future where more and more people would actually start becoming owners of these properties and then give it on rentals? Or
Definitely. I hope each of our team members does that one day. That
interesting.
They're able to buy a home and they're
maybe
able
from
to
the
give it
ESOPs
out.
when you kind of
exactly. That's the aspiration, that each one of them should be able to buy a second home and then give it out on rentals as well.
Talk to us a little bit about the competition, over the last few years and how it has evolved.
Yeah, so when we started, I think there were just a couple of people who were focused on this segment, and predominantly that was taking place, interestingly, in just West India. So it was primarily in Maharashtra and Goa where villa rentals was a concept. And if you think of the word villas also, you generally associate it with like seaside places, but when you think of the hills, people generally associate the word bungalows, they'll associate the word homestays in North and South India. And here we didn't see a lot of people doing anything with respect to actually trying to brand and aggregate and organize this segment. So when we started, we were just a couple of people, but in the last 8 years or so, there's brands across every market in every holiday destination of India. So what do I mean by that? In Goa, there'll be people who'll be managing 5 homes to even 50 homes.
Interesting.
In Kasauli, there'll be people managing 3 homes to even 30 homes.
So like micro brands in particular cities.
Absolutely. That are getting established, and that's great. If you look at it, it's the same way as what's taking place in hotels, right? There are branded large chains, but there are lots of people who manage 5 to 7 hotels in a Mumbai or in a Goa, etc. So it's very similarly, what's taking place is that everyone is creating some kind of standards and trying to deliver a certain experience to guests.
So it's like making the market
more organized.
larger.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about the larger platforms? Like, do you see them as a competition as well? Maybe like an Airbnb if they launch like luxury villas or experiences.
So Airbnb for us is a platform on which even we market our properties.
It's a partner.
The biggest difference between, say, a brand and a platform is that a brand is taking care of end-to-end experience, right? Which is not just a platform where you're connecting with a host. We are the host. So we have to take care of the entire experience. So both have different strengths. We have to get very involved operationally. The platforms definitely help in more reach to consumers. They'll have their own marketing spends that helps us indirectly because we're on their platforms. So each has a role to play, but it's like saying, will a Make My Trip run a hotel, right? That's not going to take place. So there'll be enough hotels, brands that exist. Fortunately for us, in the entire villa segment, it's so unorganized and unbranded. There's so much headroom for so many brands to come up, and hopefully we'll keep building on our market leadership.
Amazing. I think you touch upon the brand, right? And essentially you've done a lot, to build the brand, right? So just talk to us about 3-4 things that maybe you have done over the years, which has built that brand trust. From your reviews, from like your customer experience. Like, what are some things that you've learned over the few years which have helped you build such a loved brand?
Yeah, so many things. I'm trying to think of what could be 2 or 3 things, but initially this is something I keep sharing that our focus was on doing things that don't scale. So we kept thinking about.
I think this is a
Paul Graham.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do things that don't scale.
Yeah.
And initially, what we realized was, what was a challenge with platforms in India was that it was extremely opaque, or it didn't feel as you were actually building a connection with someone. So there was a lack of trust that still existed in India. People weren't comfortable just transacting on a platform by chatting with someone. So what we realized was, on Airbnb, when we also listed our properties, everyone was trying to share their phone numbers. They wanted to speak, so they wanted to be sure that, is this a legitimate place?
Yeah.
Where is this located? What will I get here? What from an experience point of view will I actually have over here? What will I get toiletries? Do I have to carry things along with me? So there were multiple questions people had.
And in fact, Airbnb has this thing, right? Like, it kind of blanks out the phone number whenever you share it as well. But
Correct.
So that was the demand that people had in terms of speaking to somebody.
Yeah, and people, if it gets blacked out, they would think of another way of sharing the number.
Yeah.
So people figured out all different ways in which they could share the number.
Yeah.
And it was all a sign that people were still not trusting what will you have as an experience. And to build that trust, we said, okay, we'll speak to consumers. So whether they came to our website, we put our numbers up, personal numbers up, so that they could call us, and we'd answer any question that they might have. And that is what led to high repeat rates. So I think for us, we will continue focusing on being accessible to a consumer wherever they would like to converse or transact. Whether it's on call, whether it's on email, whether it's on chat, whether it's on a website. They should have that comfort of using any of them, as long as they feel that, okay, that trust is there in choosing us. That was one big factor. The second thing what we did, which built a lot of trust with our homeowners and our guests, was that we had people on ground. A platform will never have people on ground, because the platforms focused on just closing that transaction.
And it's very interesting because you think of supply also from that perspective, that where you can have density of supply.
Correct.
So that you can have a bigger team.
Exactly. So say for most homeowners, the biggest pain point is that sitting out of a city in Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, they have no idea what's actually taking place at their home. The guys who are actually enjoying the home is the staff, because they have no one overseeing them, and they're just chilling and enjoying themselves. So how can you have oversight on the staff? Are they actually cleaning the property? Are they not misusing the property? Are they hopefully not giving it out on rent to someone else without you knowing about it? So there are a lot of concerns that people have, and that gets solved when you have a professional who's actually, one, overseeing the place, and second, guests that are coming to your property on a regular basis, so that it prevents your staff, one, from getting lethargic, two, from misusing the place, because now everything is professionally being overseen.
Very interesting. So I think as a homeowner as well, if you're looking to get into this space, right, essentially resources is one thing that you need to look at, and then maybe have shared resources across multiple properties and be manage it in a professional way so that like the property kind of gets maintained well.
Yeah, exactly. The third thing I think what's worked for us is that we've realized we have to keep adding more and more to what a consumer wants. And consumers' expectations are also rising, right? Initially, when we started doing this, the people always thought this is a home, घर है, घर का staff मिलेगा, and the expectations were like, मुझे आप basics सही दे दो, I'll be happy. To post-COVID or during COVID as well, right? Like people were working out of these homes, people were living out of these homes. They needed Wi-Fi. Most homes didn't have Wi-Fi.
Because they're off the city.
Exactly. It was to disconnect. It wasn't to like stay connected.
Yeah.
So we had to set up Wi-Fi. We had to set up laundry facilities for people. Washing machines had to be put. TVs had to be put in these properties which were not there earlier. So a lot of things needed to be added basis the experience. Third, people wanted food. Earlier, people were fine eating out and going to like local dhabas over there. But during COVID, people became even more careful that they don't want to step out. So being able to provide food at all of these properties. So these were things that we had to keep adding on basis guests' needs. And what we've seen now is that people aren't just thinking of ये घर है. People are thinking, okay, this is a serviced villa.
Interesting.
Right? So they expect that service.
Perception is also
correct. They expect that service, and we have to keep upping our game accordingly. And I also think that will always be a differentiator because as I was saying, density is important because only then you can provide this level of service. Doing it at one home is one thing, but being able to do it at 1,000 homes, you need that team on ground in all of these locations to build a brand.
Got it. No, I think very well said, and I think great learnings, across all these 3 points for early stage founders. Talk to us about some bad experiences that may have happened over this journey of scaling this to 1,000 villas.
I mean, every founder goes through roller coaster journeys. So we've gone through our own. I think for us, there have been at least 2 or 3 near-death experiences.
Wow.
For example, when we started this business, we raised some angel money, and we thought the way to build startups is that you keep spending that money you get, and you'll get more money to continue growing. So just spend on marketing, spend on team, and burn is absolutely a normal thing to do.
Yeah, those were the times as well for that. Yeah,
exactly. But I think 1 year into that journey, when we were left with almost no money.
How much did you raise in the angel
so we raised 3 CR initially.
These are friends and family angels.
Yeah, precisely. And I think in about in 18 months we were almost out of money, right? Like at 12 months we thought, okay, let's start fundraising again. By the 15th month we realized this is not going to happen unless we have something very differentiated in terms of what we're doing. And I think that was a very difficult moment because I remember we'd taken an office after the first year saying that, okay, now we're going to expand, we're going to close another round. We'll take another office as well, and literally we had to give that back within 2 to 3 months.
My God.
So those are difficult things, right? When you don't make the right decisions and then that has an impact on your team, that has an impact on just being able to survive. So we went through that moment, which was very difficult. COVID was very difficult because 6 months everything came to a standstill.
Were there any revenues? Were there any bookings?
Zero, more or less zero. There were a few guests who were staying in our villas for 6 months. They said we moved out of the city and we're going to live here. But more or less it was zero. And we had to take hard calls then. But fortunately for us, when things reopened, it was like floodgates opening, and then people were just traveling constantly at villas. Because they were looking to drive rather than take a flight, and they were looking to live there. So they were weekdays they could stay there, etc. So we were actually whatever salary cuts we done for our team, we were actually able to provide entire salaries back to our team because demand was so high.
And did your team stay with you over the time?
I think that's something that I feel that built a lot of loyalty amongst our team as well. That we didn't think of it as in bad times we'll sort of take harsh calls, but in good times we won't reward them. So I think very few organizations were able to pay 100% salaries to their team. We were able to fortunately be one of them who was able to take care of that at that time period. So I think that's how we've generally tried to approach things, that difficult times bring the best out of us and the team, and I think that resilience has got built over time.
Amazing. And from a fundraising perspective as well, you raised 3 crores, you were almost out of money. then what happened? Like, how were you? Like, what was the switch? Or you're like, how did you raise your next round?
Yeah, so we raised our first round actually in 2015, and then I think.
And 3 crores is a decent round for that time.
Correct. Yeah, and I think what we realized when we were getting close to completing that spend was we'll only raise more money if we can actually narrow down on a specific problem we're solving. It's fine if it's a niche, but we need to see traction over there. And that traction means it has to be profitable, that specific segment. So till 2020, we didn't raise more money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
that's very interesting. So you're almost out of money, and then you ran the business profitably for almost 4 years.
Correct. So that I think just made us realize that focus on a bootstrap mindset. That honestly helped us through COVID as well, because 2020 was a difficult year. Obviously, things bounced back. But that mindset ensured that going forward as well as we're scaling, like we're able to think about profitability and not just burn as a way to grow. So maybe that's become part of our DNA, that just spend more where you see that traction taking place, not just experiment and throw money and expect you'll raise more money.
Interesting. And how much did you raise in 2020 then?
So we raised 10 CR in 2020. This was actually 1 week before COVID.
Wow.
So again, that was another difficult
Which investor
moment.
was this?
This is DSG Consumer Partners.
Kudos to them.
Exactly. I don't know how they had the guts to take such a call.
So this is 1 week before COVID was announced, like in India, like March 27th or something, right?
Like the money was wired 1 week before lockdown took place, and they had a sense of this because globally they'd seen what was taking place. So I think we are very thankful for an investor like that who trusted us, and again to them our promise was that we're not looking at this money as a way to just spend it. We're thinking of this as just lying with us, and with the mindset that irrespective of that we have to survive. So that again helped us get through COVID and move ahead. But that was difficult times, definitely a very difficult time. But 10 CR is what we raised then, and about in 2022 we raised about 42 CR.
Okay.
Again, the focus was just keep scaling this segment.
Got it. And which are the investors in this round?
So other than DSG, there's a family office called Capri Global that I invested, and our existing investors, including a few of our homeowners, invested.
Wow, interesting. And in terms of building the business to about 200 crore in revenue, like how much capital have you deployed till date?
Yeah, we've deployed roughly about 30 CR. We still have, close to 30 CR still in bank. So we've tried to do this in a capital efficient manner, and hopefully we can keep doing that.
Amazing. I think over the last few years of building travel, like just maybe you can share a few insights, on how travel has evolved. What are some exciting opportunities in the travel space, like how Indians or how Gen Z are traveling, because we have a lot of founders part of our community as well who are building in the travel space. So a few of those insights would be very interesting on exciting opportunities in travel in India today.
Yeah, so I'll share the EFG of travel, not the ABCD. But
interesting.
For us, and what we've seen is, and this has been talked about a lot, especially over the last couple of months, is experiences, right? That's what people want to spend on. If you think about the top 3 things that people spend on, other than clothes, they're spending on experiences. Even whatever budget savings that are taking place because of the new budget and tax slabs changing, at least 10 to 20% of that spend will go on travel, right? What kind of experiences, whether it's going for concerts, Coldplay, or whether it's going for religious travel like the Mahakumbh, people are constantly looking for different experiences that they can have. I would not limit experiences to just doing something outdoors, but also something that they can do with their friends or family. Could even be just celebrating the birthday. What could be a unique experience that they could do for that? So E is experiences, F is frequency. I think travel has become a critical part of the way people want to live. It's no longer something I'll do during my kids' holidays, but it's constantly something that you want to do. So it's become part of your quarterly plan, is what we like to say. You're doing it every 3 months, and you're doing it so frequency is increased of travel. It's no longer one international holiday of 2 weeks and one local holiday. You're doing shorter trips. And G, I would say, is you're generally doing it with groups, right?
Group.
Whether it's experiences or this frequency of travel, it's not just individual travel that's taking place. Those experiences you actually want to have with other people. You're going for that concert with at least 7, 8 other people. You're going for Mahakumbh also with at least 3 to 5 other people. So I think groups is something you have to, like, Indians just love traveling in groups, which has to do with our social fabric.
Amazing. I think thanks for that insight. EFG of travel is, I think, one takeaway, we have from this podcast. But, just to end, like, what are the plans for StayVista over the next few years? How do we see the business scaling?
Yeah, for us, we want to continue building in this, it's called alternative accommodation, right? Hotels are known as the typical accommodation in hospitality, and alternative is everything which is villas to homestays to apartments to hostels. We believe alternative is going to become the mainstream over the next 5 to 10 years. And as this becomes more and more mainstream, we want to ensure that people think about Vista as being the brand. So whether it's staying at villas, whether it's staying at apartments, whether it's staying in a glamping site, these are all the different ways in which people can go travel, experience new things. So that's what our focus is on. We want to we hopefully become synonymous with villas. Vista equals villas is what we keep saying internally, but it goes beyond that as well.
The experiences would evolve, as you said,
exactly.
glamping or apartments as well.
Because what we've seen is, people come and stay with us as a group, right? So if they had a great stay, they go to another villa.
Yeah.
But now, the way people travel, sometimes it might be with their group, sometimes it might be just with their spouse. So can we be an option over there as well?
Yeah.
But not be an option where it's a typical hotel, but like different kind of experiences that people could have. We just launched residences in cities. So we just launched a boutique residence in GK in Delhi. So it's just another way of living rather than staying in a typical hotel or staying in a typical service apartment, right? This actually feels like home. You come, stay there, ghar ka khana milega.
And how long can these rentals be?
It's flexible. So if you want to stay for a night or if you want to stay for a month or couple of months. So that's the idea.
Generally, like how much would people spend on this?
So an apartment, an average price would be around 15,000 rupees a night for 3 bedrooms. But you can take it, it's the whole idea, it's flexible, right? So even if you want a room, you can take a room, which will be about 5,000 a night.
Interesting.
And the main USP is that, one, obviously food is critical, that people are not wanting to have very heavy food. Second, it's so much more common spaces, which is where you can actually spend quality time, whether you're coming with someone else and spending time there, or whether you're working. So it just is more natural environment where you can work and live out.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
No, I think kudos to you for building such a fantastic brand, and I think as you grow on that EFG of travel, best of luck from our side. And
Thank you.
I think as travel evolves as well, right? Like from villas and, as you said, like apartments and then glamping sites. I think there's so many experiences
Correct.
that like Vista would also get into. So I think very excited for this journey, and I think generally, like, you're a founder, like, who loves to give back as well, right? So very excited to collaborate with you, on Accelerate and on everything, on travel and helping just young founders build large companies.
Yeah, I would love to. Honestly, everything that you're doing for this community is what I really respect. It's not easy to do. It's a lot of time and effort. I think time is the most precious thing, and you being able to give that to so many startups. I mean, I'd be very happy to give some time of mine in any way that you guys
Amazing, great. We'll just end this with a quick rapid fire, or, on your personal side. So, one non-work thing that you enjoy?
Playing sports. That's very important to me.
And what sport?
Right now it's pickleball, because I feel I got too many injuries playing football, so it's switched to pickleball now.
Which football club do you follow?
I support Arsenal.
I'm a Liverpool fan for the last 20 years. I go to Anfield every year.
Wow,
so,
nice.
So we are in the middle of a title race this year.
Exactly.
So let's see how that pans out. But I've never missed a match for the last 20 years.
Wow, nice.
Best place to live in India?
Good question. A best place to live in India is wherever your family is. So it could be wherever that is.
So no questions around AQI or no like criteria around that?
I mean, those are secondary factors. Primary factors, who are you with?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your favorite travel destination?
My favorite travel destination is, I'll say in India, my favorite destination, surprisingly, I really like Nasik as a location. I think it has a lot to offer, from beautiful lakes to vineyards. You don't feel you're in India. The best drive that I've had, 2 drives I would say and highly recommend. One is obviously the Ladakh to Manali drive, which is beautiful. The second one, which I don't think a lot of people are aware, is the drive from Bangalore to Mysore. I think it's the best highway in this country, and just everything you see around you is just stunning.
Amazing. Your favorite StayVista property?
Choosing my favorite child. It's very difficult to do that. But for me, there's more attachment with a homeowner than a property. So I've met some beautiful and lovely homeowners who have such deep stories about their home. So for example, there's this beautiful home in Mashobra, which used to be literally a cow shed that's been turned into a home. And it's this private hill. And yeah, so I think that's one of my favorite places to be. I remember going there in winter, and the whole place was frozen, like there was snow and the pipes were frozen, but the staff were so lovely that they figured a way in which to get us hot water to drink, to bathe with, and they ensured that, you know, we had hot water, say over dinner. They ensured there's hot water kept by our bedside as well. Just that thoughtfulness, it just goes. I mean, this honestly, a few of these things can't be trained. It's just there in part of that, you know, hill culture or mountain culture. I would say.
And that's why like India is such a great hospitality destination as well, because I think somehow service and hospitality is in our DNA.
Yeah, agree.
Amazing. What's your third place in life?
What's my
third place?
What's my third place in life? So for me, I think it's definitely not a restaurant or being outdoors anywhere. It's generally in my building, being in my garden area.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Favorite person in India's startup ecosystem?
Tough question. There's so many people I admire in this ecosystem. But I generally admire people who are able to write well. Right now, I really like Arindam Paul of Attenborough. I think he's able to crystallize a lot of concepts that are useful and helpful for founders.
Amazing. Advice to young founders who are building in the travel and hospitality space?
It sounds like a sexy and exciting space to be, as I naively thought. But it's a lot of grunt work. As in every segment, so you got to be ready to like get your hands dirty, and yeah, that's very critical in whatever you're building.
Amazing. I think very useful advice, and thank you so much, Amit, for doing this. Thank you for coming all the way from Bombay to do this. Very excited to host you, very excited to collaborate, and wishing StayVista the best in your journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.